We welcome in our analyst, Robert Rosenthal from IlliniBoard.com. Robert, you're straight off the road, made the trip from the East Coast back to Champaign today. What do you make of this first win on the road for the Illini?
Well, there was an orange and blue sunset tonight as I approached Champaign area, and it's just nice for these players who have been under so much pressure and everything else to pull out a win like that, especially at the very end. I said after the game that, for the game to end with the Rutgers guy and they're trying the lateral play, and for it to end over on the Illinois sideline with everybody celebrating together, you just feel good for them. They needed a win, they needed a moment, they needed to rally around something, and to have Isaiah Williams come in and perform like he did, it's a good feeling for the program.
Right, and I don't think maybe we expected to be here in Lovie Smith's fifth year saying, oh, this is a great win for Illinois to have beaten Rutgers.
Correct. It should be, well, obviously they took care of Rutgers, and you combine this with the Minnesota and Purdue wins, and they're really onto something and that type of thing. That was the hope for this season. So yeah, there's a long road back. Starts with a win like this, but it's going to have to include some upsets, maybe even starting this next weekend.
Now, Isaiah Williams was a big recruit for the Illini out of high school. I think he proved himself as just that. Yeah,
I think it was, for the ESPN college football show to give him a helmet sticker to say, wow, this kid, you see what this kid did for Illinois. Illinois hasn't had a player like that, hasn't had a moment like that, hasn't had a, wow, this is the kind of recruit that usually goes to Clemson or Alabama doing something in Champaign. So it's good for the program. It's great for him. He's waited his turn, and even would have started the last 2 weeks, but he was out for contact tracing, so he didn't really even do anything. He just has to quarantine for 14 days. So it's really great for him to have this moment and to pull it out like he did.
Yeah, and next week Brandon Peters will likely be the starter, but given what you saw from Isaiah Williams, do you think there's potential for them to mix him in here and there?
Oh, I absolutely do. It's a very interesting, just in a sports sense, it's a very interesting scenario. You have the entrenched starter, but you have the biggest game for a running quarterback in an offense that has a history of running quarterbacks. And that's what kind of turns your season around a little bit and gets you the first win. And so if, after 2 punts at Nebraska, there's a fan base and there's going to be a lot of pressure behind Lovie to, hey, let's see that offense from last week, because, obviously it was a real thing, and 300 some rushing yards is a tangible thing that they can build on. So it's going to be very interesting.
I don't feel, though, quite yet the offense is where it's supposed to be for this team and the talent. Of course, Isaiah Williams comes in, he's not the strongest passer, as we know, but I just don't feel they're at that point yet.
You're right. It's interesting, it's the old 2-quarterback debate. Like, if you have Peters running this set of plays and Williams running this other set of plays, that seems like something that would work. It works at other positions, that you have this linebacker for these downs and these linebackers for the rush downs and things like that. But never seems to work. You need a leader, you need a quarterback. And so they have a really interesting issue on their hands of, obviously you want to go to the senior. Obviously he's a freshman and is still going to need some time, but 195 rushing yards is 195 rushing yards.
Right, and I'm kind of excited for, way in the future for this kid. He sort of proved himself as a good investment. I think this is a game that we'll look back on maybe in 4 years from now and say, oh, remember when Isaiah Williams did this, and he's, leading the team as a senior.
I think you're right. And it was very interesting that after the game, one of his comments was how, he didn't say proud of himself, but he focused on his last throw. There's 12 seconds left. They have the penalty. They're now out of field goal range. They basically have one play to get into field goal range and then kick the field goal. And he throws his best throw of the day, a back shoulder throw to Casey Washington. They get 13 yards. It puts them back in field goal range, and they hit the winning field goal. So for him to have like a little moment like that at the end of the game of like, hey guys, I'm not just a running guy. I can, once I have this down, once the nerves go away, I can be a passer. That was interesting. So it's certainly something to build on and look toward next year.
Do you think that was the play of the game?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, I compared it to an NFL play. We see that so much in the NFL that some star quarterback is going to be like, okay, we have basically one play and it's got to be the perfect throw and he's got to get out of bounds so that we can kick this field goal. And he made the throw. So, yeah, it was definitely the play of the game.
And we definitely can't ignore some of the takeaways. I think they set a big tone for the team in this game.
Definitely. Like, the second half, I guess, was a lot like Michigan State last year, that every second half drive is seemingly ending in a fumble or an interception. That it was interesting that of the last 4 Rutgers drives, 3 ended with an interception and 1 they had to punt, but on third down, Illinois dropped an interception. So it could have been 4 consecutive drives with an interception, and that's what this defense is built on. It's what it's supposed to do. So it was, encouraging to see. Now you got to see it against somebody besides Rutgers.
Right. I think we're kind of now starting to see it take form a little bit, but can they maintain it, do you think?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, last year, the last-second field goal was over Wisconsin. It was a massive win. This year, it was over Rutgers, who you should be beating anyway when they're in their first year with a new coach and starting another rebuilding thing. So yeah, it's not the same, but it can be a spark, and they have all the opportunity in the world to go out and prove something against Nebraska.
Now they're halfway through the season, if you don't count that one extra game at the end. Is there still time for them to make a turnaround?
I mean, obviously you look at the Ohio State game and say, okay, let's not fool ourselves. They're on their way to the playoff. But the other 3 games, Nebraska, Iowa, and Northwestern, are all okay. You didn't beat Minnesota. You didn't beat Purdue. Those are maybe the 5 teams you were supposed to go head-to-head with this year and compare yourself to. So you're 0-2 in those 2 games. You have 3 more. You probably needed to go 3 of 5 in those. So, hey, time to win these 3 games and prove you can stand toe-to-toe with the other teams in the Big Ten West.
And Northwestern, I think, was ranked this week.
Yes. Yes. I mean, how crazy to go
It's incredible.
From the Big Ten championship game in 2018 to 3-9 last year, and now, right back up. But I mean, it's an example of what typically happens when you have everybody back. Northwestern has the most starters back in the country. They basically last year went really young and played everybody and lost games and retooled everything. And now with everybody having 1, 2, 3 years of starting experience, they've made this leap. So, it's kind of what you wanted to see in Champaign with so many players back.
And hey, Illinois, they're not dead last. They're better than
That's right.
Penn State.
Yes. When you look at the combined wins, Penn State, Michigan, it's insane. I think we knew that going in, that a COVID season is going to be a little weird like that. People will be missing players, and some teams are really prepared in the off season. They kept their guys working out at home when they were quarantined, and other teams just didn't handle it correctly. And I think you're seeing some of that. But yeah, to see Indiana 4-0 in the top 10 and to see Penn State 0-4, it boggles the mind.
Yeah, everything is upside down.
That's right.